We'll call to order the City of Douglasville City Council meetings for tonight. Our regular voting meeting, which is Monday, October the 15th. And so first we'll have our invocation, which will be led by Minister Michael Wood from City Reach Church, North Douglasville. We appreciate you being a ram in the bush and coming to do our invocation. And after that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. It will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel. Please stand for the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you with a humble and grateful heart, asking you to lift up those who are seated in places of authority in our nation. Pray for this council, Father. Pray for everyone who's in authority over us. We ask that you bless them with wisdom and guidance and leading us in the policies to govern us. And we thank you so much, Father, for their protection. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for leading us in the invocation. And Minister Wood, we appreciate, again, you coming to lift up an invocation for us. So now we'll move on to announcements and presentations. And the first announcement I have is for Domestic Violence Month, the month of October. I believe someone's here from the Share House. Miss Teresa, good to see you. So I'll read the proclamation, and then if you don't mind, just having a few words, and we'll take a picture after that. So I'll read the proclamation first. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good evening. Whereas when a family member is abused, it can have long-term damaging effects on the victim that also leave a mark on family, friends, and the community at large. Domestic violence is widespread and is devastating to a society as a whole, and the problem of domestic violence is not confined to any group or groups of people, but crossed all economic, racial, gender, educational, religious, and societal barriers. It is sustained by societal indifference, and whereas the crime of domestic violence infringes upon this individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to the systematic use of physical, emotional, social, and psychological abuse, and whereas survivors should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need, domestic abusers should be punished to the full extent of the law. Survivors of violence should also have access to medical, legal services, counseling, emergency shelter, and other supportive services so that they can escape the cycle of abuse. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is directly affects all individuals involved, it is not a private family matter, but a crime punishable in a court of law, the consequences of which have a devastating effect on the communities, schools, and workplaces of our nation, representing a pattern of assault and coherent behavior that will escalate in frequency and severity if intervention does not occur. And whereas the council recognizes that Share House, Inc., which has served the needs of battered women and children in this community for the past 28 years, with a commitment to provide services to victims and educate the community in the complexity of domestic violence, and therefore, I, Rochelle Robinson, Mayor of the City of Douglasville, do hereby commend Share House for its services in advocating a domestic violence-free community, and do hereby declare October 2018 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in the City of Douglasville. So proclaim this day of October the 15th. So thank you, Ms. Teresa. Let's give her a hand and what the Share House does. So if you'd like to have some comments, and after that, I know you have a program that's coming up, and you would please tell us about that, invite the community, and then we'll come around and take a picture with you.
Okay. First, I would like to thank Mayor Robinson and the council for recognizing October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. As we know, there are many individuals that are impacted by domestic violence and is in need of a lot of emergency services and intervention services, and that's what Share House provides here in the Douglas County area. We are holding our annual candlelight vigil on Thursday, October the 18th at 7:00 p.m. And everyone is invited to attend. It is open to the public, and I'm hoping that the mayor or the council may have an opportunity to come by so that we can honor those who have lost their lives and also recognize the survivors of domestic violence. We selected our theme this year as Out of the Shadows I Live, because there are many victims who live in the shadows of abuse. And sometimes we have to really speak out and make sure that they have services and that they get the support that they need. So that's what we are here for. And again, we can be reached at our crisis number, which is 770-489-7512.
Thank you so much. And your colors are purple, and I have one of these beautiful scarves. I was your speaker, I think, last year.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Madam Mayor,
Councilmembers?
just for the listening audience and for me, what is the date and time, and also the location?
Oh, Heritage
The date
Baptist.
is October the 18th, Thursday. The time is 7:00 p.m. It's located at Heritage Baptist Church, 8800 Rose Avenue, Douglasville, Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other comments from council members? Thank you. Not seeing any or hearing anyone make any statements, we'll come around and take a picture with you. Thank you so much for what you've done for the past 28 years.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Everybody ready? All right. One. Oh, you guys ready? All right. 1, 2, 3. Great. We've got some good ones.
Thank you, council members, for taking that picture. We're going to talk about that with the telephones. We'll go over the protocol for the meeting, for this voting meeting, and then after that, we'll move on with the agenda as presented. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville City Council regular voting meeting. This is a City Council regular meeting of agenda items where official action will be taken tonight. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the comments for citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. Just a few protocol things about your phones. I ask that you would silence your cell phones and your electronic devices so they will not be disruptive during the meeting. If you can silence those or put them in, or turn those off until after the meeting, we'd really appreciate it. I'd ask that you keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You'll receive a warning from the chair if you deviate from this requirement. A second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the chambers, the premises for the evening. We will have only one person speaking at a time. You have 5 minutes to speak. There is a unique sounding gong or bell that will ring when your 5 minutes have elapsed. And we'll ask that the audience will not react to the speakers by applauding or being disruptive in any way. Of course, we know you will not do that anyway. The agenda items will be handled as the following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item. Then the person representing the agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation. We may ask questions that be clarifying issues that we have not gotten an understanding from of the past meeting last Thursday at our work session, or if there's something new that comes up, this is the opportunity for myself and council members to possibly ask questions. There's 30 minutes that's allocated to the person that's presenting, 30 minutes in favor and 30 minutes in opposition of those items. And then speakers, again, will have 5 minutes to address the chair and the council as it relates to that item. When you come forward, please give your name and address for the record. If you have a card, you can fill out, there is a card that we have for you to fill out that was presented outside. You can bring that forward and hand it to the city clerk, and then come to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and we'd be happy to hear from you for about 5 minutes. But in that, no, this is not a question and answer period, where it's not a debate. We'll just try to provide information. And that is about it. Again, please, with your cell phones and electronic devices, if you'll put those in silent mode so that they will not be disruptive during the meeting. So now we'll move on with the agenda as is presented. I open the floor for minutes to approve the legislative work session of September 27th, 2018, and the regular meeting and executive session of October 1st, 2018. Open the floor for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Does someone push their button, Ms.
The
Vicki?
buttons are not active
They
on all
aren't
our machines.
active?
We're having technology issues.
Okay, did someone
Again.
raise their hand? Did you get Mrs. Acker?
I'd second, and also T. Miller second.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been properly moved in second to approve the minutes as presented. Are there any corrections denoted from the council members? Thank you. No questions or comments. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? The ayes have it. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Open the floor to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. There's a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Are there any questions or comments or corrections by the council members as it relates to the consent agenda? Thank you. I don't see any. All of those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. The consent agenda is approved. We'll move on to item 7, and that's Public Safety Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Madam Mayor, at this time, I have no business.
Thank you so much, Councilman Davis. Good to see you back today. We'll
Thank you.
move on. You're welcome. We'll move on to Community and Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on to Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under Planning and Development tonight, we have several items. We will start with item A, 22-1871. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Mountain Industrial Park, Lot 11, for 1.86 acres at 7600 Owl Creek Drive, located land lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 104, for plans dated September 28, 2018. Application is by Shane Jackson, and I would assume, yes, there's an individual here representing that application. Would you give us your name and address for the record, please, Mr.
Yes,
Forlaw?
sir. Michael Forlaw, 8665 Baldwin Parkway, Douglasville, 30134.
Thank you, Mr. Forlaw. Do you have anything to add to the public hearing that we had on Thursday night concerning this application?
I have no new information, no, sir.
Okay. Is there anyone, any council member that would have any additional questions or comments concerning the application? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, the only comment I would make is I know a particular council member brought up something about windows, and we established from our zoning department that those windows were adequate because it was mostly warehouse. And so that it would be fine with ADD compliance, and I know there's some comments about that, so we just wanted to make sure that the viewing audience knew that everything was taken care of as it relates to our standards and ADA and all of that as far when windows are concerned with warehouse.
And I'll
Yes.
ask again, just for the viewing audience benefit, I'll ask Mr. Schaefer to just make sure that those plans have been, the entire development plan has been reviewed and is in agreement with our ordinances and requirements. Is that correct? Thank you very much. Any other comment or question? If not, I'll make a motion to approve item 22-1871.
Thank you. It's been properly moved in second to approve item 22-18-71. Any additional comments or questions as it relates to this item from council members? Thank you. Not seeing any. All those in favor of approving item 22-18-71, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. 22-18-71 is approved.
Thank you, Mr. Forlaw.
Thank y'all.
Appreciate you. Item B, 22-1872, adopt a resolution approving the City of Douglasville's update to its comprehensive plan, pardon me, including the future land use plan as required by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. This item we have discussed at length. We did have a discussion on it on Thursday night concerning the fact that we did not have that plan back from DCA approved with the changes that I know the mayor had requested some changes, and there were some adjustments in it. I had asked Ms. Wright if she would come forward and just give us an update on that, where we were, and then that would help us to make a decision as to how to go forward. Ms. Wright.
Thank you, Chairman. Michelle Wright, City of Douglasville, 6695 Church Street, Douglasville, Georgia. As of this morning, we did receive the plan back with some comments from the Department of Community Affairs. We addressed these comments. They were minor comments, and returned the plan to the Department of Community Affairs before 2:30 this afternoon. We are now waiting for them to review what we had sent to them and to be sending us a letter from the DCA over the next several days. So as our chairman stated, we will need to take this up at another date.
Is there any question or comment concerning this, understanding that we do not then have that finalized document back? We knew as of Thursday night that we would have a very tight schedule in order to be able to get it back, and that's not occurred. So any question or comment before? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Is it my understanding that the comprehensive plan is a suspense date by the 31st of October? So we would need to have that information back to us and look through it and okay it, and then have the pleasure of the council to approve it or not before that time frame.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure I had the time frame in my head correctly.
Yes, therefore, Madam Mayor, I assume we will have to have a special call meeting, since there is not another meeting that is scheduled in the month of October as a regularly scheduled meeting. Therefore, I cannot give dates as to when that would be held unless council says that we need to set that meeting at this time. Don't know how we can do that, since we don't know the date we'll have that paperwork back. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, do we have to advertise that special call meeting, and what is the time frame on that?
Yes.
We do, and they're saying 24 hours.
Okay.
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Ms. Wright. Hearing that information, item 22-18-72 will take no action on at this time, and we'll await the return of that information and schedule a special call meeting. Okay. Item C, it's item 22-18-73, hold a public hearing, consider a request for a special land use permit for a church or place of worship for property zone CBD, Central Business District, being approximately 0.55 acres at 6610 East Broad Street, land lot 17, District 1, Section 5, Parcel 32, application by Michael Wood. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Pretty good.
Name and address for the record.
Michael Wood, East Broad Street, 6610 East Broad Street.
Okay. Can you share with us any additional information? This is being a public hearing. We do have to give opportunity for everyone to speak, and our mayor has already given that information as to the limits of time. Mr. Wood, is there any additional information that you would like to provide as a part of the application?
No, sir. Same thing.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone that would have a question for Mr. Wood concerning this application, as far as council is concerned?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Just for clarification, I know a lot of people get confused on this parcel every time it comes up. The church is actually on the side of the parcel that faces Church Street. And the other side that faces Broad Street at one time was a gas station. This parcel previously with several different restaurants. So we've all driven past there many, many times, so we know where it is. We just get confused by the Broad Street address, which is changing to a Veterans Memorial Highway address anyway.
Which is even more confusing as I rode around trying to find it, yes.
It is.
And so, just for clarification, a little history, this was at one time, if I remember, prior to being restaurants, it was also a feed store that Mr. O'Neill, Mr. Jerry O'Neill owned for many, many years. I don't know if you were aware of that, Mr. Wood.
Yeah, he told me. He passed away earlier.
Yes, that is correct.
I spent some good time with him.
Okay, is there anyone else here that would speak at this time in favor of this application? And if not, is there anyone here that would speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, then I'll close the public hearing and make a motion on item 22-18-73 to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-18-73. Any additional comments from council members?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd like to comment. I wanted to get an update, if I could, and this may not be the proper time, but since we're speaking of special land use plans, I know that Mr. Schaefer has come up with a new way to hopefully prevent us from having to have those wanting special land use plans to come back for renewal. If we could just take just a moment to let him expound upon that so that hopefully it will help both our audience and the others involved before we take this vote. Is that proper? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Just as we go forward, Phil Schaefer, City of Douglasville, 6695 Church Street, zoning administrator. So what we are attempting to do is there's quite a few churches and a number of other special land use permits that have over history been put on 1-year permits, and after the year ends, those permits terminate. And what we are attempting to do is swap over so that staff will go out, inspect the sites as we approve these special land use permits on the anniversary, investigate to make sure that they're still in compliance, and then report back to the zoning board and report back to you. The special land use permit has been established, it's in compliance, and that we recommend that it run with the land from that forward. If we find it out of compliance at any point in time with any of the conditions that you would impose or the zoning board would ask you to impose, we would bring it back for a hearing before the zoning board to make a recommendation to you for rescinding the special land use permit or to conduct a hearing to understand why it might not be in compliance and to bring it back into compliance. So going forward, that's how we would like to approach these projects.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. So basically then, is this application actually for an extension? Yes. Because it's not noted here that it is an extension, but I'm glad to hear that. So that would mean then that in the future, so long as everything is kept as agreed and everything is operated as agreed, then there would not be a need for another renewal. Okay?
Okay.
All right. That's all that I had, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's very good, Mr. Chairman, streamlining the process.
Yes.
And not bringing citizens in that have to come back in every time is best practices. So
That's
we
correct.
appreciate your patience, and thank you so much to the zoning department and Mr. Schaefer for making that recommendation. So we do have a motion and a second properly to approve this item. Any other comments as relates to item 22-18-73 from council members? Thank you. Not seeing any. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. You continue to feed the sheep.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item, 22-18-74, hold a public hearing and consider a request for a special land use permit for a church, place of worship for property zoned IL Light Industrial District, being approximately 0.27 acres at 13070 Veterans Memorial Highway, land lot 190, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 70. Application by Jacques McCullough and Manna from Heaven Ministries. Good afternoon. How are you folks?
Find yourself.
Name and address for the record, please.
18 Senator Lake Drive, Douglasville, Georgia.
And your name?
Jackie McCullough.
Thank you, Ms. Jackie. Do you have any additional information to provide concerning this application for a special land use permit?
No, sir, we don't.
Okay. Is this a renewal?
It's a different location.
It's a move from one location to the other, but you already have it. You already had a special land use permit, so
Yes.
this will be a new one at this location.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments or questions for the applicant by the council or mayor?
I have a question. When
Yes,
do you
ma'am.
anticipate moving?
We
started moving already.
Okay.
You're supposed to wait till you get your approval first.
Okay, good to know that. So if approved, will you be ready on Sunday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other question or comment? Yes.
Need some help. Need some help.
Take a recess.
Do you need to recess? You might want to call that.
Yes, sir. We'll take a 5-minute recess. We apologize. We'll have you come back in a second. So make a motion to recess.
Make a motion to recess for 5 minutes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're recessed for 5 minutes. We're reconvening our council meeting. Of course, As you all have witnessed, we had a medical emergency for one of our friends and colleagues, and we ask if, and I don't know if this is inappropriate, I don't care, but if you know the power of prayer, we ask you to pray for Councilman Mike Miller and his family. Thank you for your patience. So we'll move on with item D. We were in the midst of hearing from Pastor McCullough and her husband as it relates to item 22-18-74, which is a public hearing about your church, and you told us that you've had the special land use permit before. You have a ministry now, but you're moving to another location because you have outgrown where you currently are. And you know you have a name like Jackie McCullough. It's another.
I know.
Yeah. Evangelist. We have our own Jackie.
That's one of my relatives.
Yes, sir. So if you would go on, the Chairman, Mark Adams, was going through the public hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
Again, we appreciate everyone's patience as we've had this medical emergency, and we'll get back then to the order of business. Is there anyone here? I know Mrs. McCullough said she had nothing else to add to, and I believe we were speaking as far as any council members that may have had questions or comments for the applicant. If not, I'll ask if there is anyone else in the audience that wanted to speak in favor of the application. And if not, is there anyone that would speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing, and I'll make a motion on item D, 2218-74 for approval.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-18-74. Any additional questions or comments from council members? Thank you. Not seeing any. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 22-18-74 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Just for the record, just so we all know, with this new address system that we're adopting, where exactly are you? On Veterans Memorial Highway?
Old address is 7837 Bankhead Highway.
Okay. Give us some geographic area where that is.
It's right up the street. You got the boat repair shop.
That's correct. We
right
talked
next to
about
it.
it. We talked about it on
Next to
Thursday.
it.
I'm sorry for my forgetfulness, but yes, you are on the right going out Bankhead Highway, now Veterans Memorial Hospital.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again for your service, Mr. McCollum, Vietnam veteran. Thank you. Okay.
Waiting on my screen to clear here, the voting screen. Thank you. Okay, next item 22-18-75. Hold a public hearing, consider a request for a special land use permit for a dance studio or school for property zones O&I Office Institutional District, being approximately 2,800 square feet at 8323 Office Park Drive in Land Lot 51, District 1, Section 5, Parcel A-102, application by Cendrika Dudley Branham of Heart Fitness LLC. How are you this evening, ma'am?
I'm doing amazing. And yourself?
We're fine, thank you. Name and address for the record?
Yes, Cendrika Dudley Branham of Heart Fitness LLC. Address is 8323 Office Park Drive, Suite C. That's in Douglasville, Georgia, 30134.
Thank you, Ms. Branham. Is there anything that you would like to add to the information you provided us on Thursday night?
No additional details.
Okay, are there any questions or comments of council for the applicant? Yes, Madam Mayor?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Dudley Branham, I know that we talked about that there are two businesses operating and you're on the top floor, but the business closes. I'm not sure if it's a tax business or whatever. It's a small business that's on the bottom and they close at 5 and your classes start shortly after.
Yes.
And then some you do therapeutic for special needs and for dance, and then the others, the ones who could not come, that you still had your other location that they could attend.
Yes.
Since there were some stairs in this facility that you're proposing to go to.
Yes.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any other question or comment of council? Seeing none, then I will ask, is there anyone in the audience that would speak for this application? Please come forward if you would. State your name and address for the record.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Brandon Penniman. My address is 1082 Abington Court, Douglasville, Georgia, 30134. And I would just like to speak on behalf of this application. I'm very familiar with the STEP program and all that she's doing in our community. She's a great asset to our community, and I think her being able to take her business to another level and being able to offer services all throughout the year by having this facility would be a great asset to our community. She works with a population of students who have differing abilities, and she gives them an opportunity to do some things they normally wouldn't be able to do. And so I'm just here to speak on behalf of her application and ask you guys to please approve her application and allow her to continue to do great work for our community like she's already been doing.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, is there anyone here that would speak in opposition to this application? Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing. I'll make a motion on item 22-18-75 for approval.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 22-18-75. Any additional comments or questions from council members? Thank you. Not seeing any. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. 22-18-75 is unanimously approved.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Randall.
appreciate you all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Best wishes to you, ma'am. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Parks and Recreation Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight in Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to Finance Committee. It goes right back to you, Councilman Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Welcome.
Finance Committee has one item. That's item 24-18-25. Authorize the mayor to sign a settlement agreement with Alan A. Cosby and others, settling a claim for taking of real property during the construction of the city's driveway between Rose Avenue and the West Pines Golf Course. We do have an attachment showing that land lot information. I know this has been a long time coming, and if there are questions or comments, or if anyone would like to address the council prior to this, feel free to come forward. Seeing none on item 24-18-25, I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 24-18-25. Did you get a second? Thank you so much, City Clerk. All those are there any additional comments or questions as it relates to this item? Any more discussion? Thank you. Not seeing any. All those in favor of approving 24-18-25, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. 24-18-25 is approved.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to thank the Cosby family for their patience with us, and we hope that it all works out. And that's all that we have. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And we encourage members from West Pines to continue to attend West Pines. We have some new things on the horizon there, so that's a great public space, green space in the middle of the city. Okay, so we'll move on to Information Technology Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Miller T.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no items under Information Technology tonight.
Thank you, sir. We'll move on to item 13. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Adams for Maintenance and Sanitation Committee.
No business tonight, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. We'll move on to Transportation. That is chaired by Councilmember Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One item, authorize the mayor to sign Task Order 17 with AECOM Technical Services Incorporated, amending the parties' professional service agreement of August 26, 2015 to add a scope of work for conceptual design for two segments of existing Highway 92, A, from Hospital Drive to Veterans Memorial Highway, and B, on Dallas Highway from the alignment of Highway 92 South to East Strickland Street.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, I know there were questions last week regarding the remainder of the triangle that's going to be near Hospital Drive and the new intersection in 92. Both our consultant from AECOM, Steve Tiedemann, and Greg Roberts went out to look at that property. Since you all were presented this item, our recommendation is going to be due to the elevation and the slope and the condition of that property at this time, that it not be included in this scope of work. Our concern is that there will not be a significant amount of property left over after the construction to make it worthwhile to do any level of design work as far as having an engineer to design something. We believe that we can do something with it, but it's not going to be to the extent where we have to pay for an engineering consultant to come in and do some type of design work and extend that amount of money. But we do believe that once the road is done, we can take it over and do some beautification there, but not to expend engineering fees to do something.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. Are there any questions by council, mayor, council? Okay, if not, then I make a motion that we approve this item.
Thank you so much. I have a motion to approve. Is there a second? Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to approve item 27-18-19. Any further discussion from council members? Not seeing any. All those in favor of approving this item, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Item 27-18-19 is approved. So we'll move on to Personal and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No business tonight.
Thank you, sir. Ordinance and Intergovernmental Committee. That's chaired by Vice Chair Dr. LaShawn Danley.
No items, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You're welcome. Education and Training Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am. At this time, there's no education, no training going on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Communications Committee. Councilman Samuel Davis, you have business there.
Yes, ma'am. No items at this time. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we will go into other business, and at this time, we'll have a presentation by our city manager as it relates to the tax allocation district, which will be an information session. Not certain who's going to present.
I will. Did you all put it under other business or city manager's report? City manager's report? She put it under city manager's report.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, then we'll keep on moving then until we get to the city manager's reports. Any other business to come before council member as relates to any other concerns from council members to the council, myself and the council? Okay. Nope, we'll move on. City Attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Susan Littlefield.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. The chief is back. You went to the chief's conference.
Yes.
Good to see you,
nice.
Chief. You doing anything? I know you have the 20th is coming up this weekend is the festival that and you have bike rides and all that stuff. You can talk to the public about that a little bit.
Yeah, we have our annual fall festival starting at 10 o'clock on Saturday. However, before that, we will have a 12.2 mile bike ride. It's from 18 years and older. So come out. That registration for the bike ride will begin at 8 o'clock. And hopefully the 12.2 miles, you come back in at time for the fall festival.
For the fall. You don't have a baby route for like 5 miles.
We
12 miles.
Well, you go as far as you go. We'll pick you up.
Oh, Lord.
We'll pick you up, but we looking into that. Maybe
Yes, sir.
next year we'll do something a little different, but as we get better as we go. For the whole family, we're looking for something for the whole family. But this particular one here, just for some of the for the riders.
Serious riders, okay, 12 miles. Well, welcome back. We know that you had an excellent time at the National Chiefs Association. It's good to see you back. Okay, we'll keep on moving down to the line. And now we do have the city manager, Ms. Marcia Hampton, and I believe you have a presentation as it relates to the tax allocation district. Is it ready on the slide presentation? I know we've have already seen this in committee. Council members, do you want to come around so you can watch it better that way? No, you don't want to? They said no. Okay.
So
backwards.
what I've done is there were two presentations.
You have a microphone?
I need a microphone now.
I need a microphone.
You do.
Turn it on, you might be able to.
There you go.
Just to make certain that you all get a gist of what's taking place, on Monday of last week, I was asked by the Chamber of Commerce to come in and to give a presentation, particularly about the City of Douglasville's investment via the SPLOS program. So there are two presentations that I'll mention tonight. The first one is to talk about what monies the city has expended through its SPLOS program, and the second is about the tax allocation district, which I know many of you have heard about. Essentially, if you take a look at our sales tax comparisons from FY19 to from FY19 and FY18, you'll see where we are when as it relates to sales taxes. Our fiscal year, for those in the audience who do not know, starts July of every year, and then we're currently in FY19. That fiscal year will end June of 2019. So you can see our sales tax collections. And in January, there's typically a boost after the holidays. So shopping at the mall, Christmas shopping, that's why you'll see the increase in the sales taxes for January of each year. The other is to mention that the reason why this is important, it relates to SPLOST. So SPLOST is very different from your tax allocation district. Your SPLOST is what was approved by the voters almost 3 years ago, where you agreed for an additional penny. That's the reason why it's called a special purpose local option sales tax, to go toward capital improvements and investments throughout Douglasville and Douglas County. And that SPLOST was approved for both the city and the county governments. Each government has very distinctive projects that they're looking to do through this 6-year SPLOST, or intergovernmental agreement between both governments. So every time that you go to the mall or wherever you go to spend your dollars on items for retail, an additional penny goes to improve in capital investments in the city and the county of Douglasville. Douglasville, we decided to focus on 4 categories of improvements. One was transportation, facilities, public safety, and parks and recreation. And throughout the presentation, I'll show you just a little bit of where your funding is going. And why this is important for the TAD is because private dollars follow public dollars. It's really no different than in your home. If you're getting ready to sell your home, you're more than likely going to get a better bang for your buck if you do investments in your home before you get ready to sell it. You're not going to get the best advantage if you don't try to make any improvements before you put it on the market. So when we invest public dollars in our public infrastructure, it creates an added advantage for the private sector to come in and want to do projects. The thought behind that is, if you're not going to invest in your own, why do you expect someone else to come and do it? So they want to see that you have skin in the game. Next slide. The budget that the city currently has, essentially from general fund, is about $31 million. And these are from property taxes and sales taxes and several other locations. And if you take a look at where we spend our general fund dollars, the bulk of where we spend those monies are for salaries and benefits for the employees to operate the city. There are other costs, there are capital outlay, but by allowing the SPLOST to be approved, the burden came off of the general fund. So if we weren't able to have the SPLOST program, all of your capital improvements, your roads, your public infrastructure, all of that would have to come from the general fund. So that $1.7 million would either look a whole lot more or about the same, which means that we would not be investing in our own community because we don't have the resources to do it. So capital outlay, it's very important for us to have the SPLOST and to maintain the SPLOST. On the next slide, you see where we receive the bulk of our revenues, as I mentioned earlier, from taxes. Next slide. Your tax bill, and I think, Karen, I don't think this is a SPLOST, SPLOST presentation, but I can wheel through this. Here's what's included in your tax bill. This is your bond millage. This was the millage rate that is associated with the GO bond that was approved for the public safety building. As you can see, that has decreased over time. You go to the next slide. This is for your maintenance and operations. We did have a tax increase this year, but as you can see, as it relates to when we had to raise the taxes in 2015 due to service delivery, and that's for your fire services and your animal control, we still have a lower tax millage than we did at that point. Some of you may remember the city had to increase its budget by $1.8 million to absorb the cost for fire services and animal control. And that is money that we did not have because the prior agreement did not call for that type of annual payment. And that's an annual payment that we pay for the next 10 years. Next slide. This is when you combine the total. As you can see, the millage rate is still lower. On the next slide. Here's what's really important about SPLOST as it relates to TAD. We have in SPLOST, and if you remember the previous slide, your general fund budget was about $30 million. So here in SPLOST, over the next 6 years, you're going to collect in approximately $32 million. So think about that. That's $32 million of capital investment that there's no way your general fund would have been able to pick up those dollars. None of these projects would have been able to happen if not for your SPLOST program. So when you look at transportation, you see we've had several streets resurfaced over the last several months. So that's a total cost throughout the entire program, about a little less than $5 million. There's several pieces of equipment that we have been able to purchase through that program. And the mayor and council just approved to look at beautifying what's going to be the abandoned portion of Highway 92. That's from Brown Street headed south down to the railroad tracks. As you know, the railroad crossing will be closed at Campbellton Street. That will become a local street. And then also the portion on Fairburn Road from Bankhead Highway to Hospital Drive. Because Highway 92 will be relocated, those folks traveling north and south on 92 will no longer travel those as direct routes. Those will be in-town streets, and so therefore will become city streets, which will be less traveled, which we feel like are the core and the connectivity between the north side and the downtown. So when you look at Fairburn Road improvements, that $233,000, that's part of SPLOST. So that would not have been able to be done without your SPLOST program. And then improvements to Douglas Boulevard. We got a question at one of the meetings, why do we want to improve Douglas Boulevard? Well, I just mentioned sales tax dollars. You want to make your mall, you want to make the area around your mall enticing for people to go ahead and shop, therefore increasing your sales tax dollars. Some of you have gone to Perimeter Mall, Town Center Mall, and other places where there are community improvement districts, and we don't have that. So therefore, we have to look at other ways to improve the area to make certain that the mall is improved, because again, it goes to that $32 million. Parks and Recreation, you see several projects that are listed there. One project that's not listed on this slide, or I should say a couple projects that are not listed on this slide, or the redesign of Willing Workers Park and Jesse Davis Park. Those are currently ongoing right now, the planning phase for those projects. Of course, we are in the midst of construction around Jesse Davis Park, so it's going to be very important that we time the redesign and construction of that park as we begin to open the road. Jesse Davis Park will become the gateway to town. That will be the park you will now be able to see directly from Highway 92. So it will be to our advantage to make certain that that park is beautified, and that we make certain that the quality that the citizens deserve is invested in that park. Willing Workers as well, making it more usable for the residents in the neighborhood in that community. And then if you look in the areas of public safety, there are a variety of equipments, including a radio tower that's desperately needed in the Thornton Road area to the tune of just the city's portion, $1.2 million. That's something that would not be able to be purchased without the SPLOST program. This allows for communication in the Thornton Road area, and of course police vehicles, which is an ongoing replacement cost to the city, and then several city facilities, including City Hall. So some of you who've come in City Hall recently, you know we've kind of got a mess going on, but the thought process is we're not at a position where we can build a new City Hall, but we can improve the facilities that we have. And again, when you're trying to attract developers and you're trying to bring people in, you got to take care of your home first. You want to make certain that they know that you're investing not just in one area of the community, but everywhere in the community in all facets. So those are the categories in which we are putting those SPLOST dollars for improvements. So the next slide. So talking about redevelopment powers, to make certain there's some not so much confusion about what's what's redevelopment powers. What's on the ballot for November 6th is redevelopment powers. Basically, what you as a citizen will be allowed to do is vote to give the mayor and council the power to create what's called tax allocation districts. Several of you have heard of tax allocation districts. Several of you question what it is. Tax allocation districts are not SPLOST. You don't gain any money from it. You're not going to go to the store and either the city nor the developer is going to receive any money from a tax allocation district. You're not voting on a tax allocation district on November 6th. You're voting to grant the mayor and council the power to create tax allocation districts. We are several steps before a tax allocation district is even thought of or moving forward with that. On the next slide, again, what is a district? Basically, it's an area where the mayor and council have decided through the public process that there is an area of redevelopment that's needed, and they create a district around that level of development. And it allows for tax increment financing. So essentially what that means is your property taxes are frozen as of today. An investor comes in and makes the decision that he or she is going to invest in this mixed-use development with a projected value of X in the near future. They are then allowed to bond out and finance their project on that increased tax value. That is to their benefit, and continue to pay the frozen tax rate. You as a property owner, you as a business owner, your property taxes are not increased due to this. However, there has been the question, well, what happens if X development happens in my neighborhood and it increases my property value? That may happen. And in some instances, that's what we want, to increase the value of the community. But it is not going to happen by the city or any entity arbitrarily raising your taxes. Your tax rates will remain the same. This area of development only allows for that developer to be able to finance the incremental increase of their taxes for their project, which creates a benefit to them. So on the next slide, what types of properties or areas are eligible? The ones that we're studying. The downtown area and the north side and the mill property area. Those areas that are distressed, those areas that really need an incentive of development, and areas where we don't have the adequate things that you as the public and the community are requesting that we have in those areas. Part of the reason why we're doing the planning study and you all being a part of those projects, you all are telling those consultants what it is that you desire and you want, and in turn those consultants are giving that information to the city. On the next slide. How does the TAD work? We're at phase number 1. Adopt a local bill and hold a referendum. That referendum will be on November 6th. It's a one-time only referendum granting those powers to the elected officials. Then we will identify eligible areas and prepare a redevelopment plan. In a sense, we already have the eligible areas because we've been doing the planning, and the redevelopment plan, in a sense, are those 2 studies that we have. One's already been adopted. The Northside study, we're close to being adopted. We should have a final draft by the end of the year. We will have to hold a public hearing. Once you hold a public hearing, that's where the community is going to talk about the area that's proposed, what needs to be included, as well as their desire for what happens in that district, and the elected officials describe how they would create the tax allocation district. You would also adopt the plan. Our plans have already been adopted, but you would adopt these existing plans as your redevelopment plan and then create a TAD. The mayor and council can designate a redevelopment agency, or we can use one of the existing authorities or agencies that are already a part of our local government, like the Urban Redevelopment Agency that I know we have. For instance, Judge Caldwell serves on that entity. We would have to obtain back to the next slide, a state certification based on the value of the digest and set up a special fund. That's something that we would have to do internally. And then we would also have to get consent from the county and the school board regarding their taxes as well. The bottom part of the slide talks about where we are. The first bullet point that's the top asterisk. We're currently at the stage of holding that local bill for a referendum. That's where we are. So we have not gone past that stage. The next slide. How may the tax increment be used? Again, capital costs, land assemblage, they may have to buy land, organizational and professional services, that can be an architect, that can be other professional services, engineering that's used for the project, debt services on those bonds, and any capitalized interest. Next slide. The advantages of the TAD, as I said earlier, one, we don't have to issue a developer a tax abatement. So we don't have to tell that developer, you get to not pay taxes, so we're going to give you an abatement on taxes because you're bringing this development to the community. And again, we're not increasing your taxes. There's a significant leverage of public and private investment. Going back to the SPLOS slides, this is a way to leverage the money that we're spending via the SPLOS program to attract those private developers, giving them an additional incentive to come in to develop in Douglasville. And it is not a general obligation debt where you have to go out and vote to allow for debt. And of course, there's no loss of current property tax revenue. Those revenues remain the same as they are today. Here are some communities, and there's several other communities throughout the state of Georgia that have TADs, and these are just some that many of you, I know you've been to. There was a community area made mention at the meeting last Monday. Some of you were there. Some of you remember Belmont Hills, where the Sears outlet used to be over in Smyrna. That's a tax allocation district. That entire project and that entire development was done through a tax allocation district. Next slide. This map has been talked about on several occasions. This was a potential map that we started out with early on based on our Livable Centers Initiative district. The chamber is doing presentations where they have expanded this map. On Monday, when we met with the community on the north side, there was a request to expand the map. The mayor and council have agreed that when we if we are granted the powers to do this, that we would look to have the north side district included in that. So again, this was a map that was created early on, and the map creation does not happen officially until we are granted the powers, and the elected officials at that point began holding public meetings. But this was based on a map of a previous plan that we have. But again, we've heard the concerns of the community, and it is the desire of the elected officials to expand that district based on our planning activities that we have going on. Next slide. These are some of the investments that the elected officials have made via the downtown master plan. Of course, we have the jail concept plan going on. We are a Livable Centers Initiative community, a Main Street community, and tourism. Some of the investments we're spending with those SPLOST dollars: City Hall renovation, Courthouse Square East. We're going to renovate that building for our maintenance administration building. The old conference center, some of you have been in there for community development purposes. We have renovated that space. We're going to clean up the current maintenance site once we begin the transition to the north side. Some jail site improvements, O'Neill Plaza and Welcome Center. And if you ask why that's important, this is what developers are looking for. They want to know that you're investing in your community and substantial projects so they can come and piggyback on what's already being done. On the next slide, the Northside Investments. We're looking at, of course, we're in the midst of the Northside redevelopment study. We've done a community development block grant, again, an LCI, transportation enhancement, some infrastructure improvements, Highway 92. The city was a big part of that. We're redesigning Jesse Davis and Willing Workers. Highway 92 banners and lighting. We're actually going to talk a little bit about some portions of that project tonight. And then, of course, the mayor and council just approved the redesign of the abandoned portions in 92. So those are all funded projects that are currently ongoing. On the next slide, these are some recommended projects through those plans, and some of those we're moving forward on. It's been recommended for downtown that we look at market rate, and this is not tax incentive. This is market rate multifamily housing, some mixed-use development that includes commercial. A public investment project on the jail site property, and then connectivity to the north side. Some north side recommended projects, a trail system. We currently have $1 million in transportation funding. Our consultant is currently working with AECOM, our transportation engineer, as well as Georgia Power on that trail system to connect via the multi-use trail on Highway 92 with some possibilities of going north along 92 to the Silver Comet Trail all the way south into downtown, and potentially, if it's possible, connecting to Sweetwater State Park. Mixed-use development, again, adjacent to Willing Workers has been mentioned. Again, market rate housing on the north side. There was a question at the last meeting that came up to me after the meeting, and the young lady said, I wish I would have asked this to you in front of everyone. The question was, if the study is saying that we on the north side are qualified for market rate housing, and we do qualify for grocery stores, why is it just an Aldi's and not something larger like a Kroger? The reason is numbers. You don't have enough housing units. It's not the fact that your household income is low on the north side, it's the fact that you don't have the volume. So with more volume, typically in multifamily, you're going to create the numbers that the Krogers and the Publix are able to say, these are enough households that are going to support the grocery store on the north side. It is not household income, it is literally the number of housing units. And then again, money we already have set aside for the abandoned portion in 92. Next slide. And funded again, these are all funded. I've talked about those. Those are all in the works. You may not necessarily see dirt moving, but I promise you, we're moving, and these things are ongoing. Next slide. So next steps. We, as a city government and the elected officials, are just going to wait on the voter referendum. If it's approved, we're going to solidify the map with public input and then begin the tag creation project. If the referendum fails, we got to go back to the drawing board for private investment incentives. It's just the reality of it. We're investing as much as we can with the resources that we have. We're going to have to work in different ways to attract private investment. As you can see, those communities that I mentioned, almost all of the surrounding communities around us have tags. So we have one less tool than our competitors next door have. It's just a stated fact. It's not about household income at this point. It's not about what you're investing via your SPLOST. It's literally about what else do you have. And one of the last components that we were missing were plans. Developers like to see that you as a community have stated this is what you want. We have the plans. We just don't have the additional private attractors. And then, of course, we, as staff, would have to recommend to the elected officials potentially to create other avenues for public dollars to leverage private dollars. Again, private dollars follow public investment. So the best example I could use is you get the best value for your home when you make the investment in your home. So we're trying the best to make the investment in the community here so we can attract those private investments that you all have stated at many town hall and community meetings that you're interested in, that you want. So for any questions on a TAD, again, very different from what I mentioned earlier in the presentation. It is not a tax increase. City doesn't receive a dollar from it. The only thing that we hope is that we do attract private investment that improves the quality of life, of course, with hopefully increasing the tax base. And in many communities, I'll use Smyrna for an example as I wrap up the presentation. Smyrna's millage rate is the same as Douglasville's. And the reason their millage rate can be the same as ours is because their property tax value is higher. Their property tax value is higher because the investment in their community is greater. So you can start to see millage rates roll back when the investment in the community goes up, because then the elected officials can afford to do more, and that dollar is worth more, if that makes a little bit of sense. So, questions that you all have for me? I know Ms. Stanley wanted to make certain that I gave this information to you to clear up any confusion. Questions from the mayor and council? Yes, sir.
Yes. This may have already been answered previously, but we're asking the voters to grant these powers to allocate or to designate tag. So just a couple of questions. Who currently has the authority to do so, if anyone does? And if we grant those powers, if they select an area, do us citizens, do we get a chance to say, yes, we agree, or don't agree, and vote for those things as they are selected?
You don't necessarily have a chance to vote, but you do, through a public process, have a chance to give public input on whether or not you agree or disagree on the districts. You also are involved in some instances with projects. Many communities, when, for instance, in Woodstock, when there's several projects that come about and they're in a tax allocation district, the public is highly involved in that process because you have granted the elected officials the power to create those tags. Currently, right now, no one in Douglasville, Douglas County has that power, the redevelopment powers. The county did not seek that request from the General Assembly this legislative session. We did. We had to get we had to request from them to put it on the ballot. So you'll see it. The language is kind of squirrely, but the best way I can put it is when you see redevelopment powers, that's what we're asking for.
Thank you.
We cannot go out and tell you to vote yes. At least ourselves do meetings and hold meetings to say, spend money to tell you to vote yes. You will see that the Chamber of Commerce is doing a series of meetings. As I mentioned, they were on the north side. They have paid a consultant to go out to solicit to the citizen base to vote yes and to support a TAG in Douglas, or to support redevelopment powers to create a TAG in Douglas County. Yes, sir.
Okay, so my first question is, who proposed the first map, or who developed the first map that we just saw?
we came up with a map really to show council, because this is a livable centers initiative map. It's a map of an area that already exists in the city. So we don't have to come up with any boundaries. It was already something that's contiguous to a plan. The key to maintaining redevelopment powers, it has to be in a redevelopment area. So for us to go out and create boundaries that are not part of a redevelopment area, it wouldn't have, would have been difficult when we just took something that we already had just to show the possibilities of where things can go.
Okay, and this is more of a statement as opposed to a question. Just because you said that the areas that we're looking to redevelopment are areas that are blighted, and it's obvious that the north side is going way further than the map that you guys projected is a blighted area. So my question is, like, why from the jump wasn't that area considered? Because it's obviously a blighted area, so it seems that it will make conscious sense to automatically put that area inside the tag district to attract development, to, of course, bring the community up. You said that we want to increase the quality investments to improve the quality of life.
Because it wasn't part of the LCI, and the North Side study had just begun.
Okay, what's the LCI?
Livable Centers Initiative.
Okay, got it. So why wasn't it part of the LCI?
That I cannot tell you. I guess probably due to commercial, Michelle, wouldn't you say? There's probably not a lot of commercial over in that area that you're speaking of, Mr. Penniman. So typically when you do LCIs, it's Livable Centers Initiative. So you need to have a good, healthy mix of commercial, residential, and public amenities. And the further you go north, it's primarily residential. So I would assume that's the reason why we've never gone that far north.
Livable Centers Initiative was initially established for downtown.
And we've added on throughout the years, but again, Michelle is working on expanding that as well. So we have an application in to expand.
Okay, and then last statement, just on behalf of the north side, we do want to see development aside from just houses on the north side. We want to see commercial. So as we create the new LI, we want to see commercial on the north side. That's a big part for us. Grocery stores, places like medical offices, pediatric offices, even urgent care. I know that there was a liquor store that was approved recently, and you said that you want to work on the quality of life, and I feel like that is not a good precedence to set on the north side of quality of life. We approve the liquor store, but we don't have any type of medical, anything, a grocery store, a bank, right? So I just want to say this to the entire city council and the mayor, please, when you consider north side, when you are approving different things, consider the long term and what precedence we want to set for the people and the mindset of the people on the north side. The liquor store is the first new development, it's setting a bad precedent. So that's what's important to us. And we definitely, that's it. Thank you.
For me,
Yes, sir.
I think it's just fair. Gregory Williams, I'm the pastor of Gordon Memorial. I think some things are just fair, they're just. And my parishioners right now, they're really young, saying we want better, we want more. You did an excellent job tonight. So, Madam Mayor, to council, please, if you will, do not forget the north side.
Will not.
They're concerned about just having things on the north side where they can shop, they can do wonderful things. So please, if you will, keep the north side in mind. They're good people, they pay taxes, and they care.
Transportation, if you're speaking of public transportation in a sense, public transportation is a power or in a sense an authority that was relegated through service delivery to Douglas County. So through the service delivery agreement, Douglas County is the decision maker on public transportation for the city of Douglasville. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that individual elected officials don't have their own personal opinion on that. It just means that via an agreement, when you look at the service delivery agreement that local governments are all required to do through the state of Georgia, that is a power and a authority of Douglas County. Well, thank you all. Anybody can come up after the meeting, and I appreciate your patience. Thank you, Ms. Danley, for asking me to present. I will just add that from a staff perspective, it's myself, Ms. Patrice Williams, Community Development Director, who's working on all of these plans. Both of these plans are 10-year plans. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes sometimes, and I know it may appear that work is not necessarily being done, but please reach out to us. You know, we're open. We have lots of public meetings, and we ask that you continue your involvement. When we hear from you, those are easy things that we can pass off to the elected officials so they can hear your recommendations. So I appreciate you all.
Thank you so much, City Manager. I would just add a couple of comments to what the citizens, thank you so much to the citizenry for coming out this evening and being concerned and wanting to receive information. And thank you, Pastor Hale, who's also here from AME. So but in addition to those comments that were made from the citizens, I wanted to say to Dr. Williams from Golden that the council is sincere about investing on the north side of the city of Douglasville. I misquoted and said $160,000, but actually to date it's $179,000 that has been allocated and already paid to have a north side study done. So with the other 14 plans, inclusive of parks, which is including Jesse Davis and Willing Workers, Fowler Field, the Mill Village, and Hunter Park, that we are putting our money where our mouths, you know. So it's our intent to follow through with the $179,000 that's already been invested on the north side to come up with a plan that's inclusive of residential, commercial, and live, work, and play. And to Mr. Penniman, as he talked about development and what's approved, we can only approve what's presented to us. So if someone brings something that's allocated, whether it be a package store or whatever else, if it is that property owner and it's a allowable use, we have to be fair and vote on what's allowed to be there. And if urgent care doesn't come before us, we can't vote on urgent care. We vote on what is presented to us. So we can't come out of the sky and vote on something that people haven't brought to the table. So we just encourage development, and that's what we're trying to do, is encourage development, even through the Livable Senators initiatives. And of course, it was already answered to Commissioner's wife, Ms. Mitchell, about transportation, that through that service delivery agreement for 10 years, inclusive of animal control, fire, all of that, those services are deeded to the county. So the city, we don't have a transportation plan because the county has the jurisdiction and the authority to make the transportation plans for the city, as given to the powers given to them for 10 years, for the next 10 years. So any other comments from council members? Thank you. Thank you so much, City Manager, for presenting that to us. We did have comments from citizens and delegates, but if we're here, if you all have any other comments to make, please come to the podium and give your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes. We'd love to hear from you. Okay. And St. James. Okay. Any topic. Thank you so much. Any staff reports, City Manager? You're going to talk about the chili cook-off. And everything else. Oh, you didn't comment on the chili cook-off? Okay. Mr. Aaron
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a couple of...
Your name and address, Aaron.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez. Aaron Sarowitz, 6695 Church Street.
Yes, sir.
So, yes, you're right. We have the chili cook-off coming up on Saturday. Mm-hmm. So if you go to the safety expo that the police are putting on, right after that, you can go down to O'Neill Plaza and have some chili. And then some other events we have. On October 25th, there's a community enrichment meeting at the Hollis Street Community House. The PD will be there on hand for that. And let me see here. There will be a downtown master plan update meeting. That's part 2. That's going to be at the conference center October 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. So I'll give another update on the master plan. And then there's going to be the Hunter Harvest at Hunter Park on October 27th. That's from noon to 4 p.m. Let's see, the police department will have a booth at the Trunk or Treat event. That's at the courthouse. That's on October 28th. That's from 3 to 7. So Douglasville Police Department will be on hand for that. Let's see, there's going to be a GDOT town hall meeting on October 29th. That'll be at Jesse Davis Park. That starts at 6 p.m. Let's see, what else do we have? October 30th, Councilman Chris Watts will have his town hall meeting, and that'll be at Hunter Park from 6 to 8 p.m. And then finally, I just wanted to remind you all that the USO donation boxes are at 5 locations within the city. That's the police department, Hunter and Jesse Davis Parks, the conference center, and City Hall. We'll be accepting donations for the men and women overseas all the way through October 31st. If you need the accepted donation items, I have that list. I emailed it to Mayor Pro Tem a couple weeks ago.
I forwarded it to the rest of the council.
Yep. If anybody else needs one, happy to send those to you. So, any other questions?
You missed a couple of things that I want to bring up at this time
Okay.
if I can.
Sure, Mayor Pro Tem.
There's the Moonlight Run that's coming up, also on Saturday, I believe,
Right.
after the chili cook-off.
Yep.
And you mentioned the downtown master plan update on October 25th from 6 to 8. Also at that time, I have it on my calendar, I hope it's still going on, at the Hunter Memorial Park Honor Garden, Military Honor Garden, there's a flag retirement ceremony from 6 to 7. I believe that's being sponsored by the Daughters of the American Revolution. I could be wrong on that. So.
That's correct.
That's correct.
Also, Aaron, I have one, if you don't mind, that you missed to put out there.
Don't say you missed it. It was just additional things, make them feel
Additional
bad.
things?
This is our
That's okay.
young.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron, my bad.
Thank you,
Okay.
Councilman.
October 29th, GDOT is putting on a town hall meeting down at the Hawthorne Center from 6 to 8. That's Monday,
He said
October the
that.
29th.
He said that.
Good
one.
reminder. Good reminder.
A reminder.
Yeah.
Well, Sean, you told me he did it.
Any other events? You said
Thank
that
you very
one.
much.
It's okay. Thanks, Aaron. And I wanted to commend the council members for having this fall session of town hall meetings. I know Mayor Pro Tem Siegel had one earlier in the fall at the municipal building. Councilman Miller had one in Arbor Station on the 3rd or something, the 4th of October. And now Councilman Watts is for the area for Chapel Hill and Saddlebrook and all of that area. So you can hear these presentations all over again. You're a citizen of the city, so you can attend any of the town halls if you want to hear any additional information. Any other staff reports from city manager, from the staff? Okay. If not, then I'd like to have a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing property acquisition. And while we do that, we need to take a 5-minute recess, I sense. So
I think also after that, we'll have to reconvene committee meetings.
you're
'cause we haven't
exactly
finished
right.
that
We
either.
have one more from
So
Dr.
at this time, I'll
Vashon.
make a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing a property acquisition.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to adjourn into executive session for purpose of discussing a property acquisition. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Thank you. 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back into executive session.